Priscilla Hauser with Plaid. Have you played with Plaid's multi-surface paint? I love playing with it, and if you haven't, you're gonna love it. This paint will work on almost any surface, on wood, on glass, on tin, on hard plastic, ceramics. It's absolutely incredible. Today, I'm going to teach you how to paint an easy poppy. I promise it's easy, and I promise you can do it, and I'll promise you something else. You're going to love it. One of my many favorites with the different products that Plaid makes is their glazing medium. You can do many different special effects with it, but I want to show you how to antique with it. I just painted a piece of wood with 3 coats of Daffodil Yellow. Now I used 3 coats because I wanted it to be bright and very vivid. It takes 15 to 20 minutes to dry between coats. Next, on a paper or styrofoam plate, I've put my glazing medium, a little bark brown and a little black. And then just, well, I don't like the word crude, but you don't have to be particularly careful about this. Just kind of mix it together with the glazing medium and then brush it all over the board. Get it on there really good. You can do this with a sponge brush or a nice brush like I've got in my hand, although most of the time I will tell you for this, I use sponge brushes. I usually put it on the edge too. Now I'm going to use a piece of terry cloth, and I love the texture of the terry cloth. Look how pretty that is. When I drag across that, you can wipe off as much as you wish. And I'm going to fold this over and just lighten it in the middle a little bit like this, because that's where I'm going to paint my poppy. Now that I've shared with you the antiquing, you want to be sure that it's good and dry, and the next step is to transfer your design, which you will find at plaidonline.com. You're going to find all kinds of wonderful things there. You'll want to trace the design on a sheet of tracing paper and then transfer it to your prepared surface. Now, as you can see, I tried first with chalk, but it didn't show up well enough. So I went to a sheet of graphite carbon and slid that behind, and then you can use a stylus, a pencil, the end of a paintbrush, and just go over the lines to transfer the designs to the surface. Pull your pattern off, and you will want to begin to undercoat. Now I'm going to undercoat with the apple red, and I have my wet palette all set up over here, plenty of water on the sponge so that it really keeps that paper wet. And I'm using fresh foliage, apple red, and then I'll just grab a paintbrush, dip in the water, blot on my rag, and I'll come in and just start to undercoat. Now, I want you to see how beautifully transparent this paint is. And I love that because there are wonderful things that you can do with transparent paint. Not all paint is transparent. So you want to get that as smooth as possible. Now, I'm going to just wipe my brush, clean it if you want to, but I'm just going to wipe it and grab a little of this fresh foliage. I'm using the chisel edge of a flat brush to do this, but you could use a liner brush if you want to. I won't put as many coats on this as I will on the poppy petals, simply because I'm going to add other colors down here. And here you don't have to follow your lines exactly. Don't worry a bit if you get out of the lines. I'm demonstrating on a piece of mat board because it just makes it easier for me to show you. And just really quickly, I'll begin to put a second coat on top of this, but you do want to make sure it's pretty dry, and you see how it begins to cover as you color book paint that. Once your undercoating has dried, you have as many layers as you want to, then you want to come in and put shadows. Can you see here where one petal overlaps another petal. And I'm just going to pick up a little of this wonderful berry wine on the side of my brush, and I'm just going to come in, I'm going to turn this around so it's a little easier for me, and put some dark shading there, put some dark shading at the center, and a little bit of dark shading there where it goes behind, like so. And sometimes I'll even come in and pick up a little bit of black on the side of the brush because I like to deepen that color a little bit. And I'll bring that black on around here at the center and on around here at the center. Now, it's just up to you. I like to use both the black and the berry wine, and that will dry pretty quick. While that is drying, I'm going to come back to my apple red and pick up the apple red and just stroke the apple red back on, and you can see that I'm using a pretty good quantity of it. Then I'm going to wipe my brush and put my brush just down kind of flat on the flat surface and pat and shade that. Very, very simple shading. Easy, easy, easy to do. I'm going to do that on the front 3 petals, and I'm not going to take the time to do this very front petal, but you can see that finished, and you'll also see it finished at plaidonline.com. I'm going to pick up some of this beautiful orange and watch. I'm going to come to the edge of the petal and just kind of touch, pull, and lift, touch, pull, and lift, and just put pretty highlights on the edge. I'll use both orange and yellow to stroke those highlights on the petals. And don't be afraid of this, just get in and do it. This paint is so easy to use and so fun. Now I'm going to pick up a larger brush. This is a pretty good sized brush. This is a number 20, but you could use a 16 as well. And I'm just going to start to pat, 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 to smooth and soften those colors just a little bit. Going to leave that alone for a minute now. I'm going to pick up a filbert brush and some black, and I'm going to come into the center and dab, 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 dab. Just dab that color on very, very carefully into the center. The filbert brush is kind of like a flat brush that's a little bit curved on the edge. Now, watch. I'm going to put that down, that brush down, and pull and lift like an airplane taking off, and pull that black out into that petal like so. Then I'm going to just rinse the brush out a little bit more, and I love these pretty highlights on the edges, and I like to do that with the pure orange or the daffodil yellow. And there again, you want to touch, pull and lift like the airplane taking off to add the highlights to the flower. The final thing I'm going to do, you can do with the brush or you can do with a little piece of sea sponge. And I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of the fresh foliage on the sea sponge and then just tap, 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 tap for a little bit of highlight. And of course you want to go ahead and paint this front petal in the same way. I'm going to pick up some of the apple red with my flat brush and just carefully brush that on. Wipe the brush. I'm going to pick up some of the orange and just bring that orange up over the front. And that black in the center will be dry, so you don't have to worry about catching that. That's why I wanted to do the center first and let it dry and then do the front petal. Now I've picked up some yellow, and look here, I'm going to put that brush down and just pull down like that. That's almost like a little S stroke. Chisel edge press and pull, and just highlight with that yellow on that front petal. And there you have your pretty, pretty poppy. Now for the finishing touches. The stems and the blade leaves and little special effects that really add magic to it. All right, over my undercoating, which was done with the fresh foliage, I'm picking up this wonderful dark Thicket. I'm just going to stand that brush again on the chisel edge and pull down, and then I'm going to pull up, and then I'm going to pull down, and then I'm going to pull up. I don't care about exactly matching the lines that are there. I want it to be free and lovely. I'm coming back with the fresh foliage now and brushing that in. It's important to have a good flat brush that has a good chisel edge on it. And I'm just going to darken a little bit right there at the base of the poppy, like that. And there we have our stem and our blades. Now, to finish this up a little bit, I like to add a little sponging. And I'll take my little piece of sea sponge, and I like to cut just a small piece, and I'll come into my Thicket and blot a little bit, and then just lightly anchor here at the bottom. And I'm just going to twist a little bit of that Thicket up through the poppy as well, like that, and then highlight with the sponge with just a little bit of the fresh foliage here and there. Don't overdo it. To really finish it off, I like to use a fly specking effect, and I like to use my, well, not my toothbrush, but a toothbrush. So I'll put the toothbrush in my brush basin in my water, blot on my soft absorbent rag, and then circle in my Thicket. Then I'm just going to take my thumb and slowly pull across, and you want to practice this on a piece of mat board maybe a little bit first till you get used to it. But I'll fly speck in the Thicket, and then maybe I'll add just a little touch of black. You can add any color you want to it. And now, voila! We have our finished poppies. Okay, let's do it!